Picture this. You find yourself in the heart of Renaissance Rome in the year 1502. The air in the Vatican halls is thick with the scent of roasted peacock, spiced wine, and something else, the metallic taste of power. A wedding is taking place, a union of staggering political importance. The bride is Lucrezia Borgia, the 22-year-old daughter of the infamous Pope Alexander VI. Though the silk drapes shimmer and the banquet tables groan under the weight of the feast, everyone here knows this marriage is not about love. It's about survival. And before the night is over, this celebration will devolve into a bizarre and humiliating spectacle. Her marriage bed will be turned into a stage, her body into proof, and her privacy into a political negotiation witnessed by all. This is the story of how a woman's most intimate moment was weaponized, and how she, in turn, learned to weaponize the humiliation that was forced upon her. To understand the grotesque requirement of that night, you must first understand the bloody and treacherous world of Renaissance Italy. This was not an era of chivalry. It was a viper's nest of shifting alliances, where city-states like Venice, Milan, and Naples were locked in a constant, deadly chess game for dominance. At the center of this web sat the papacy, ruled by the Borgia family, a name that had become synonymous with ambition, poison, and scandal. Lucrezia's father, Pope Alexander VI, and her ruthless brother, Cesare Borgia, were masters of this game. They used Lucrezia as their most valuable piece, marrying her off to forge alliances and discarding her husbands when they were no longer useful. She was a veteran of this brutal market. Her first marriage, to Giovanni Sforza, was annulled on the humiliating and likely fabricated grounds of his impotence, a public declaration designed to ruin him and free her for a better match. Her second husband, Alfonso of Aragon, a man she reportedly loved, was brutally stabbed and later strangled on the Vatican steps, a murder widely believed to have been arranged by her own brother. By 1502, Lucrezia was not an innocent bride. She was a twice-discarded widow, her name forever stained by the political machinations of her family. Her new groom was Alfonso d'Este, heir to the powerful and ancient Duchy of Ferrara. The Este family was old, proud, and deeply suspicious of the Borgias' new money and ruthless reputation. They demanded certainty. They had seen how Lucrezia's previous husbands had been disposed of. They would not allow their heir to suffer the same fate. And so, they made a grotesque but, in their world, perfectly logical demand. The marriage must be consummated, and its consummation must be publicly witnessed. There could be no doubt, no whispers of impotence or fraud that could be used to annul the marriage later. The alliance had to be sealed in flesh, with official notaries present to verify the act. And so after hours of feasting, after dancers had twirled and poets had exhausted their verses, the couple was led away, not into a private bridal chamber, but into a stage-set bedroom. The curtains were parted just enough for the select witnesses, Esther envoys and papal clerics, to peer in. They stood solemnly, faces half averted yet eyes sharp, recording every detail like notaries of the flesh. In the shifting candlelight, Lucrezia, who had been an object of political negotiation her entire life, was reduced to her most basic function, a living guarantee. She had to prove that she was not barren and that her new husband was potent. What happened that night was remembered not as intimacy, but as a ceremony. And not just once. To erase any possible doubt, the act was repeated. And then a third time. The whispers of the witnesses rippled across Italy like wildfire. Ferrara had its guarantee, and the Borgia daughter had fulfilled her duty. Was it grotesque? Absolutely. Was it political theatre? Without a doubt. Yet in this theatre of flesh, Lucrezia was already learning the lesson that would define the rest of her life. Humiliation can be turned into leverage, and weakness can be forged into a weapon. The Lucrezia Borgia who arrived in Ferrara was not the trembling victim her new family might have expected. She had endured the ultimate public humiliation and survived. The very spectacle designed to prove her utility had also, ironically, armed her. She now carried with her the undeniable proof of her fertility and the legitimacy of her marriage, a fact she would use as a shield and a sword in the viper's nest of the Ferrarese court. She was no longer just the Pope's daughter with a scandalous past. She was the Duchess whose body had publicly sealed the most important alliance of the decade, and she would not let them forget it. Instead of shrinking from the whispers and the scrutiny, Lucrezia leaned into her role. She became a living performance of grace and power. She dazzled the court with her wit, her charm, and her impeccable style. She began hosting salons, gatherings where scholars debated Plato and poets recited verses, creating a stage where she controlled the script. Guests who arrived expecting to see a scandalous woman left dazzled not by the gossip of her bed, but by the brilliance of her mind. Slowly, the whispers shifted. Perhaps she was not only Borgia poison, but also Esther refinement. She weaponized culture and piety, commissioning artworks and funding convents, carefully laundering her reputation. In a world where her body had been treated as a public ledger, she turned her patronage into a new theatre of power, one where she was the director, not merely an actress. When her husband Alfonso was away at war, it was Lucrezia who governed, issuing decrees and ensuring Ferrara's survival. The Good Duchess, her subjects eventually called her, a title earned through years of shrewd governance and public devotion. The scholars still debate. Did she resent the role forced upon her, or did she relish the chance to